What's the story, Morning Glory? What's the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of Love is Blind, Season 6, Episode 10, What Could Have Been. So the episode starts off with Jeremy having a conversation with his mom. So he tells his mom what happened between him and Sarah Ann and how he royally messed it up with Laura. And the mother, thank God, agreed that he should not have hung out with Sarah Ann at all, that it was absolutely wrong for him to do that, and that Laura had every right to be upset about it. So he says that it just started off as an evening hanging out with the guys, and I'm thinking to myself, it was like, if it was a boys' night out, how in the world did Sarah Ann show up? How did she get introduced into this picture? So I'm thinking he must have called her to tell her that he wanted to meet up, but there's no reason for that. I don't care how platonic he thinks it was. I don't care if they were just up reading the Bible until 5 o'clock in the morning. There was absolutely no reason on God's green earth for Jeremy to spend 1 second of his time with Sarah Ann, knowing that Sarah Ann still had feelings for him, knowing that Sarah Ann had absolutely no respect for Laura and for his relationship with Laura. So anything that he did with Sarah Ann just shows that he was just being a jerk, an absolute complete jerk. Now, the rumor is that, Jeremy, when he got on the show, he had a fiance and a child. Supposedly, the mother of that fiance had posted pictures online of Jeremy with his fiance and with his child. I definitely saw the picture. Okay, the picture is definitely out there. I just don't know what the status of exactly of him and this girl when he got on this show, if they were still together, if they had broken up, or what the situation was. But Jeremy is proving to be an all-around jerk. Now, if you've got jerk tendencies, why are you on a national reality TV show just to expose how much of a jerk you are to the whole wide world? Like, I don't get it. Moving on to Jimmy and Chelsea. So Chelsea finally gets to meet Jimmy's family. They all go out to a barbecue restaurant. The whole entire meeting, it went well pretty much. They liked her. She liked them. She said all the right things. She laughed at all the right moments. The sister did ask a really good question. Jimmy's sister asked Chelsea, how do you know that you're ready for marriage? Because marriage is really hard. And Chelsea says that she knows she's ready because they communicate so well. And then after that, Jimmy says, well, we did have a couple of fights, but they were not necessarily deal breakers for us. And then Chelsea says, oh, I wouldn't categorize them as fights. Then girl, what the hell were they? Because you were dropping F-bombs, cussing him out. And he also ended up spending the night back at his apartment. Like, what are you talking about? They weren't fights. So Jimmy says that Chelsea's the woman that he's been looking for. She's the woman for him. How much he loves her, etc. The mother says that she does see how much Chelsea loves Jimmy, and she also sees that Jimmy does love Chelsea. I don't care what the mom sees. I still am not buying the Chelsea and Jimmy story. I'm not buying it at all. I think that if Jessica were to give Jimmy the green light, it'd be over. It'd be all over, and your girl Chelsea would be curled up in the fetal position in some corner crying her guts out. Moving on from there. So then we have a scene between Jimmy and Chelsea where they're having a conversation like outside on their balcony, and you can tell that Chelsea's a little bit tipsy because she's slurring her words and she's not making any sense. So Jimmy tells her that he loves her more now after she's met his family. He tells her, I love you more now than I did before. So they love to throw around this L word a lot. I just find it hard to believe that you can love someone like that in such a short period of time, especially when there's so many issues in the relationship. So Chelsea brings up a particular night that happened recently, that when after production left, Jimmy got dressed and he went out, and she didn't like that. And supposedly he had gone out to a friend's birthday party and he went without Chelsea. And then Chelsea made a big deal about him going out without her. And then Jimmy was like, well, I didn't think you wanted to go because you're already dressed for bed. And so there were times when she admitted that she didn't want to go, and there were times when she said that he should have asked her to go. So I was really confused about exactly what she was upset about. But like I said, the girl was kind of tipsy. So she gets upset because she said that people from the pods had told her that they saw Jamie out and about and they were wondering where the hell was Chelsea. And she said it was really embarrassing for her that people were talking about their relationship like that. Like, he's this guy that goes out all the time without his fiance. And he was like, what people from the pods? And she brings up a particular person. She says, well, Mackenzie. And he's like, well, I've never seen Mackenzie. I don't know who that is. So if she was there and she saw me, I wouldn't have known who she was. So she said that she didn't sign up to be with a partier, like a party animal. And he says, I'm not a party animal. That's not what I am. And then she says, well, in the pods, you told me that you don't go out at all. And he says, I did not tell you that. In the pods, I told you that I go out occasionally. So they're going back and forth on that. He says that he likes to hang out socially, that he only went to make an appearance, for his friend, had one drink. He was there for about an hour, and then he came back home. So then she brings up his female friends, claims that he spends a lot of time with them. He spends a lot of time texting them all day long. And when he's not home, he's out with them. And first he says that he would take a step back if she asked him to. So then she says, yes, I want you to take a step back from spending all this time with your female friends. And then he says no, even though he had just said, if you want me to step back, just ask me. So she asked him and he was like, no, I'm not going to take a step back. So then he leaves to go brush his teeth. She follows him, tells them that she only wants them to stop hanging out with a particular female friend because he had a sexual relationship with her. And he goes, I told you I didn't want to talk about that on camera. And she's like, well, I'm sorry. As in, I'm sorry. I'm going to bring it up on camera. So then she brings out how people told her that they saw him with Jessica. And he completely denied it. And he goes, I think you're just fishing right now, because she's not in her right state of mind. The girl is drunk. So she brings up how people told her he was with Jessica. And he was like, I wasn't with Jessica. Who told you that? That Mackenzie girl? And then he goes, I think you're just fishing, just throwing a whole bunch of stuff out there, trying to see if I'm going to admit to doing something wrong. So claims that he says, I only saw Jessica one time, which was in a picture that Jeremy showed me. And then she says something like, yeah, and you said she looked like a Kardashian. And he's like, I didn't say she looked like a Kardashian. Jeremy said she looked like a Kardashian. So she says that she doesn't want to be with them because he likes to go out. He likes to party all the time. He accuses her of being drunk and that she's really in her feelings right now. Says, then he tells her, well, I don't want to be with you if you're going to say and talk like this to me. If this is how you feel, you don't want to be with me anymore, you don't love me anymore, then I don't want to be with you either. And that's where that scene ended. So it kind of left you wondering, like, what's really going on with these two people. Moving on from there, let's talk about Clay and AD. So it's time to meet AD's mom. So he shows up, and y'all, when Clay showed up for this meeting, I felt like he was rushed. Like I felt like this particular meeting was not a priority for him. Like he was just going to stop by, meet the mom real quick, and then go to his next meeting or something, or go to his next whatever. Because I felt like everything was really rushed. They had a drink. They all had a drink, and there was like no food ordered. It wasn't like, let's sit down and have a conversation kind of thing. It was like, well, let me stop by real quick, talk to the mom, and then I'm out of here. Anywho, so he tells the mom, what he does for a living. They get past the small talk. And then he said that when it came to AD, he was looking for 2 qualifications in his future partner, which was adaptability and someone who could be his best friend. Now, I wish he would have talked more about the adaptability part. Like, what do you mean adaptability? Adapting to what exactly? So then he starts quoting something from the Bible. The mom really liked that, so he got a ton of brownie points for that. And then they talk about how his parents he brings up his parents' relationship. He talks about his father cheating. He said that his father started cheating in the 7th year of marriage to his mom, and they had been married like 23 years. So he cheated for the majority of the marriage. So he brings this up, and he talks about how he never went to therapy. Like, I'm trying to understand, where is this going, Clay? Like, what are you really trying to say here? You're talking about your parents' divorce. You're talking about how your father cheated for the majority of his marriage to your mother. Then you talk about how you've never been to therapy. It's like you're purposely trying to show this woman and AD that you are broken, that you are not ready for a commitment, but you're just too chicken to come out and say it. So you want them to put the pieces together, and you want them to spell it out for you, and you want AD to help you get out of this relationship instead of you just being a man about it and saying that you're not ready to move forward with a commitment. I don't know. I could be wrong. So the mom tells him that whatever was going on with his parents should not affect him and what he's trying to get accomplished with AD. She says that, if you're going to put a lot of weight in what's going on with your parents and have that affect you and your relationship, it's like you're trying to self-sabotage your relationship. So the mom reveals how AD had confided in her that AD told her that Clay's the kind of man that she could follow. I'm not a big fan of that. I'm not a big fan of woman following the man, man following the woman. I think there are times when I will follow you and there are times when you will follow me, but it's not going to be blindly and it's not going to be 100% of the time. We have to use some type of discernment and we have to like figure things out. When is it best to follow our partner and when is it best for them to follow us? But it can't be 100% all the time one way, but that's not how AD sees it. So she tells her mom that this is the kind of man that she can definitely follow. So AD tells Clay to concentrate on the positive aspects of his parents' marriage. Yes, they had a crappy marriage. They ended up getting divorced, but something brought those two people together. So let's try to concentrate on, the more positive parts of their marriage. AD's mom says, that she does like him, but can see that there's something about him that shows that he's scared to move forward. Really? You think? The mom says that he's too focused on this whole the possibility of divorce thing, the fear of divorce. The mom says that she never heard AD say that she would ever follow a man, that she's never heard her daughter talk like that before. AD says that she would walk off a cliff for him because he'll always be there to catch her. I hope so. At this point, y'all, I can't be too mad at AD because I don't know what she's going to say at the altar. She may tell him, no. She may say no, she doesn't want to get married. So I can't put too much on this. But so far, it's leaving like a really sick feeling in my stomach, how she's describing her relationship with Clay and how she's describing Clay. I am not an advocate. I am not a fan of, and I am not a student of the school of women follow the man and the man is always completely 100% the head of the house. I don't follow that theology or philosophy at all. I think that in a partnership, it's 50-50, it's equal. Sometimes the woman's going to make the decision, sometimes the man's going to make the decision. But this whole thing of I'm going to keep my mouth shut and let the man always make the decisions and let the man lead the way, honey, that is not for me. So they talk about wedding plans. So they're in the kitchen now. So the next time that we see them, they're in the kitchen and they're talking about wedding plans and color schemes, etc. So once again, Clay brings up his dad cheating. Look, if you constantly need to talk about how your father cheated on your mother and how it ruined your life and it completely destroyed the family, Clay, go get help. Go get therapy to work through those emotions and to work through those feelings, because the fact that you're constantly, I feel like you're more concerned about what happened with your parents than your parents are. Like if you're constantly, this is something that is unresolved for you and it's making you question moving forward with AD, the girl that you chose, then seek therapy. So he brings up his dad. He brings up his dad cheating. He says that it's easy to get married, but it's hard to get out of it. Like how can you say something like that, days before you're supposed to get married? You're telling your fiance, oh, it's so easy for us to get married, but it's going to be really hard for us to get out of it. Like, what does that even mean to you? So he says, this is what really got me. Clay says, I don't ever want to be in a situation where I'll have to cheat. And I'm thinking to myself, AD, why aren't you asking him what the hell this man means by saying something like that? Like, do you mean you don't want to be tempted by other women? Do you mean that you don't want her to let herself go? That will put you in a position to want to cheat on her because she's gained a few pounds or because, she doesn't look the way you want her to look all the time? What do you mean to be put in a position where you will have to cheat? And you're using the word have to as in you're not going to have any control. You're just going to do it impulsively. It's going to be out of your control to stop yourself, which we all know is a bunch of junk. So what do you mean by that, Clay? Exactly. So Clay questions why a date has to dictate their relationship. And I'm wondering, is this a fancy way of asking, why do we have to get married? Why do we have to have a piece of paper to justify our relationship? Is that what you're trying to say? Like, what do you mean? Why does a date have to? You knew what the process was. You knew what was going into this. You knew what the steps were, how each each stage of this process worked. There was going to be a time when you're going to go to an altar and have to say, I do or I don't. So what are you talking about? Are you trying to convince her, let's not be so stressed out about this upcoming wedding? Let's say no at the altar, but still continue to date each other. Like, what are you trying to say? So AD says that she's okay with a yes or a no at the altar, but she can't continue just, living together with him. So she's like saying to him, hey, I'm okay if you say no and we still see each other, but the end game is marriage at some point. If not in a couple of weeks or however many days they have left, then at some point in the near future, I'm expecting marriage. So, says that Clay says that he has a lot of doubts about this whole, well, it seems like to me, he didn't say this, but it seems like to me, he has a lot of doubts about this whole entire process, but he says that he's still fighting his external factors that are affecting him. Once again, if I was AD, I would have asked him, what external factors are you fighting? What does that mean? You're fighting external factors. To me, that sounds like you're fighting temptation from other women. That's the external factors are other women. He talks a lot of mumbo jumbo, which to me is just screaming he's not ready to get married. And I don't know if she's hearing any of this. Moving on to Johnny and Amy. So Johnny meets Amy's dad. They talk about family, they talk about what he does for a living. When they talked about family, he was basically telling Amy's dad how much family means to him. His family is really close knit. His family is important to him. He talks to them every single day. So letting him know that he is a family oriented type of person. The dad sings Amy's praises. My God, the things that he said about Amy just made her sound like the most perfect daughter in the world. He talked about how she motivates him and how she's just this perfect daughter and whatever, all these wonderful things about Amy. So the dad wants to know, what is it about him? He basically asks, why should I trust my daughter with you? And he says all the right things, love, taking care of her, blah, blah, blah. He said all the right things. So Johnny then asks for Amy's hand in marriage. The father, of course, says yes, because you know what, guys, the show has to keep going. The show has to go on. So we can't stop it here. He wasn't going to say no for anything. Yes, the father was going to say yes. But it's funny to me how if any of this is true, it's funny to me how he would say yes to give his daughter away to this man, but he knows nothing about Johnny really, except all the things that Johnny said in this, 1 hour, 2 hour encounter. He really knows nothing about this man. He hasn't spent any time with Johnny. He hasn't seen the ups and downs of their relationships. And I understand that this whole process is very, very expedited and sped up, but still, I don't know. How can you say yes to someone that, you don't really know? Say yes to giving your daughter to someone that you don't really know. One more thing, Jimmy and Chelsea. Okay. So the next day, they're having a conversation again. And Jimmy says after they had that fight, and I think he ended up leaving because he told her that she overstepped his boundaries or something. And I think he ended up leaving. I don't know if he left that night or not. I have no idea. I think he did leave. I could be wrong. So whatever day that they're back together again, they're having a conversation. Jimmy says that after the actions that she exhibited the other night, he says that he cannot trust her judgment. He says that that he's always just wanted to show her that he loved her, and he couldn't wait to show her off as his wife. So he had all these expectations for their future together, and now she messed it up. So he's kind of like blaming her, because I guess in his mind, he's like, I didn't do anything wrong. I just went out to a friend's birthday party, and then you turned it into this whole thing. He says that he felt betrayed by her the other night. His perspective on getting married has changed, and that he no longer wants to, because she said that she didn't think because she said that he didn't think he loved her. She didn't think that he loved her. So now he's questioning whether or not they should even get married. She apologizes for her delivery, but says that she still had to say what she had to say. She does admit that she was drunk that night. She does admit that. But she said that whatever was in her heart, she still had to get that out. So he puts a lot of blame on her. And then she also puts blame on him, because she tells him it's a two-way street. I'm not the only one at fault. But they decide that they're still going to stay together, and they're still going to try to work through their problems. So that was the other part of their segment that I forgot to mention when I was talking about Jimmy and Chelsea. And then we go to the Sorry. Then we go to the lake party. So this is where everybody gets together, right? Everybody from the pods gets together. So when we get to the lake party, they ask AD, "Hey, where's Clay?" And AD says he's at work, but he's on his way. Jeremy's not there yet, but he does show up later. So all the girls get together and they talk about Jeremy and Sarah Ann. Laura doesn't think much about Sarah Ann. You know, she does see her as a problem. She does see her as someone who was very she did whatever she did with intent. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't an accident. Her reaching out to Jeremy, DMing him, all of that was intentional. So she does see Sarah Ann as being extremely problematic and very purposeful in her actions, but she puts the blame on Jeremy because Jeremy was the one that had proposed to her. He was the one that had promised her all of this stuff about loving her, protecting her, etc. So he was the one that broke his promises. So her anger is with Jeremy. So Laura ended up leaving their apartment. So she was no longer staying with Jeremy. Laura thinks that Jeremy was a whole lie and that she got played. She feels like he had no intentions of really being serious with her, that his heart was with Sarah Ann this whole entire time. She believes that he still had feelings for Sarah Ann. So then Jeremy shows up, right? Completely brought down Laura's mood when she saw Jeremy show up. He tells the guys that he gave up on Laura because she wasn't willing to communicate with them. He tried to send her flowers, but she wouldn't tell him what her address was. She refused to talk to him, but he says that he tried. And like, you can't come back from this. You cannot come back from this, Jeremy. I don't know why you think that anybody would give you a second chance. So then Trevor shows up. Our boy Trevor shows up. And when Chelsea saw Trevor, it was like you could literally see the heart eyes, popping out of her head. And she says, "Oh, he's beefy," because this is the kind of guy that she's normally attracted to. Really big, buff, thick guys. So then our girl Jessica shows up. And when Jessica shows up, your boy Jimmy got stressed the hell out. So she showed up and, of course, she knew what she was doing with the outfit that she wore. There was a scene where they showed Jessica walking because she had on like a bikini and then on top she had like a little coverall, and there was a scene where she's walking and she's like opening up the coverall to show more of her cleavage. So the girl is very purposeful in everything that she does. So when she sees Jimmy, she holds out her hand, to shake his hand, but he instead goes in for a hug. And she called it a church hug, which makes me wonder, was she expecting more of an embrace from him? So, Laura tells Jessica that she hasn't talked to, so Laura and, Jessica are talking, and they're talking about Jeremy. And Laura tells Jessica that she has not talked to Jeremy, that she's not wearing the ring anymore. Jessica asked her if she was going to return the ring, and Laura was like, "Nope." And y'all, Jessica had Jimmy stressed out because they showed so many shots of Jimmy leering at Jessica. And he does admit, yes, he is very much attracted to Jessica. So then Jessica and Jimmy, they sit down and have their one-on-one conversation. She tells him, "I just want you to be," because he tells her about a fight that he had with Chelsea. And I'm thinking, why would you tell her that you and Chelsea had a fight? Like, that's between the two of y'all. Why are you telling her this? So he tells her that, he had a fight with Chelsea. He didn't want to go into details. And then Jessica tells him, "Well, just be good to her." I mean, even as I'm like, girl, are you even believing the words that are coming out of your own mouth? Do you even believe what you're saying? She tells him, "Oh, just be good to her." And she says, "I'm not saying this as an ex. I'm saying this as a friend of Chelsea." You're a friend of Chelsea? Really? And so Jimmy looks at her and he's like, "Oh, so you see yourself as my ex?" So after that, he tells her that, she makes him nervous. He apologizes for how he treated her in the pods, because of the fact, because she had brought up, how she had written that letter to him to let him know how she felt about him. And he read the letter. And after he read the letter, he didn't say anything. And that made her feel some kind of way. So he apologizes for that. She says that he never told her how he really felt about her. And so then he begins to tell her what he thinks of her. He says that he thinks that she's the smartest person that he's ever met, that she's very witty, that she's quick on her feet. And I'm seeing that he's not really talking about her looks. He's kind of like staying away from that. So she tells him how he makes her feel, that, that he still makes her feel, like all mushy inside. And I don't remember exactly what words she used, but basically letting him know that you still have an effect on me, that I still feel something for you. And he tells her in reality, she is still his number one. I'm telling you, if Jessica gave him the green light, he would definitely, it would be over between him and Chelsea if Jessica would give him the green light. She tells him that she's really happy for them, and then her voice gets all shaky, like she's getting emotional. And so she's doing and saying all the things to make him want to regret his choice for picking Chelsea. That's how I saw it. That was my perception, that she was kind of like, I know that you're with another. I know that you went with, you're with Chelsea, and I respect that, and I understand, and I get that, and I'm not trying to pull you away from her, but I just want you to know that you still affect me, and I felt like she was still like somehow letting him know that you made a bad decision. You really made a bad decision, because not only do I look good, but I still have feelings for you. That's how I saw it. So she's extremely problematic. I think she's not quite as problematic as Sarah Ann, because Sarah Ann actually reached out to Jeremy to let him know that she was still available. She's not that problematic, but she's problematic in the sense that whatever she was putting down, Jimmy was definitely picking up, and she was definitely putting something down. She was letting him know that this all could have been yours, like really making him trying to regret his decision for choosing Chelsea. That's how I saw it. So anyways, thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. On your way out, please don't forget to rate the video. If you like this content, subscribe to my channel, and I'll definitely talk to you later. Bye.